Let me just start this by saying I've never liked Heather. It's not the petty kind of dislike, either, it's the kind that festers over years of forced smiles, tense dinners, and silent screaming in the bathroom. Heather is my half-sister. We're both 24. Our fathers are the same man, a man who walked out on my mom for her mom, a man who somehow managed to create 2 daughters born just 20 days apart. I guess when you cheat on your wife and get both women pregnant in the same month, it's bound to create complications. That's our foundation, betrayal. And if that wasn't enough, Heather's mom hates mine with a fire that's lasted for decades. That hate was passed down like an heirloom. So naturally, Heather and I were never sisters. We were 2 girls born into rivalry. Heather was always the kind of girl who needed to win. If I wore a blue dress, hers was silkier and had rhinestones. If I got into a good college, she just missed the Ivy League. Our families had similar financial situations, but she always acted like she was royalty slumming it for the day. I stopped competing with her years ago. But Heather, she never stopped trying to one-up me. Now, here's where things go from annoying to unhinged. Last month, my fiancé Nathan and I got engaged. It wasn't a grand proposal, just a quiet moment on our favorite hiking trail, tears, laughter, and a ring I still can't stop staring at. We decided to throw an engagement party, nothing crazy, just family and close friends. We settled on a casual formal theme. Think nice restaurant night, not Met Gala. The party was scheduled for last Saturday. Everything was going smoothly until Thursday evening when my cousin texted me something along the lines of, "Girl, I need to show you this." Attached was a photo of Heather's dress. I can only describe the dress as a direct attack. It was strapless, floor-length, bright white, covered in what looked like Swarovski crystals and golden lace trim. It was clearly a wedding dress. Slightly modified, yes, but unmistakably bridal. You'd think she'd accidentally stumbled into a bridal boutique, but no, Heather does nothing by accident. I was furious. And heartbroken. Because in that moment, I knew exactly what she was trying to do. There's something I haven't told many people. Back in college, during my sophomore year, I had just started casually seeing Nathan. We weren't official, just hanging out, studying together, texting a lot, that stage where it could go either way. I introduced him to a few people, and one night, at a party, he met Heather. And then she started texting him. A lot. He told me right away. She said she didn't know he and I were a thing, even though it was obvious. For 2 weeks, she tried to get him to go out with her. He shut it down completely. We laughed it off and moved forward. But I never forgot it. And clearly, neither did she. When Heather RSVP'd yes to the engagement party, I tried to see the best in her. Maybe she was trying to make peace. Maybe she had grown up. But when I saw that photo, I realized the truth. She hadn't. She was still the same insecure, competitive girl who couldn't stand losing. I could already picture it. Her walking into the room, white dress glinting under the lights, people murmuring, "Who's the bride?" Her stealing the attention, the photos, the praise. My day, hijacked by someone who should have never even been invited. I was seething. But I wasn't going to let her win. So, I did what any spiteful, slightly unhinged bride-to-be would do. I changed the entire theme of the party. Overnight. I started texting everyone, cousins, friends, my mom's side of the family, Nathan's groomsmen. I said there was a last-minute change. The party was now a costume party. Come dressed as your favorite character. Anything goes. I framed it as a fun twist, a spontaneous celebration of love and laughter. Most people were thrilled. My mom's side loves Halloween, and they jumped at the chance to go all out. I texted my dad too. I asked him to pass the message along to Heather and her mom. I knew it was risky. He's the kind of man who forgets things that might upset his second wife. But I left it in his hands. Saturday came. People started arriving, and let me tell you, it was amazing. Nathan came as Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, and I was Mojo Jojo. My aunts and mom came as ABBA, complete with glittery bell-bottoms and platform shoes. One of my cousins showed up as Luffy, his boyfriend came as Zorro. Even my little niece wore a tiny velociraptor suit and kept pretending to bite people's ankles. We had music, themed drinks, a costume catwalk, and more laughter than I'd heard in years. Then, an hour after the party had started, Heather arrived. She walked in wearing that godforsaken white dress, flanked by her mom and my dad, both of whom looked extremely uncomfortable the second they saw the sea of costumes and laughing faces. Heather froze. Her eyes darted from guest to guest. Everyone else was in feathers, leather, or fake blood. She looked like the odd one out at a masquerade ball. And then Nathan walked up to her, with a drink in hand and the sunniest grin on his face. "Wow," he said. "Your costume is amazing. A cheap bride knockoff. Bold choice." The silence that followed was glorious. Heather's eyes filled with tears. She turned on her heel and stormed out, her mother trailing behind her, muttering something about respect and trashy behavior. My father stayed behind for a few minutes. He pulled me aside and said I had humiliated Heather, that I was being childish and petty. I looked him in the eye and said, if you had just passed on one message, this could have been avoided. He didn't say another word. Just left. I didn't think about them again for the rest of the night. Honestly, I had the time of my life. We played trivia, danced until 2 a.m., and took ridiculous Polaroids in a makeshift photo booth. People are still texting me about how it was the best engagement party they've ever been to. But here's the thing. I realized something that night, something that changed everything for me. I had spent years trying to keep the peace. Inviting Heather to things, tolerating her mother, including my dad even when he kept choosing them over me. But that night showed me that I didn't need them. I didn't want to spend my life shrinking myself just to avoid conflict. So the next morning, while still in my pajamas, I opened up an old email account I hadn't used since high school and wrote my father a letter. I poured out years of pain, anger, and disappointment. I told him I was done chasing his approval. I told him he was no longer welcome at the wedding. Then I logged out and deleted the account. And I blocked him. Blocked Heather. Blocked her mother. Cold turkey. And for the first time in years, I felt free. 2 days after the engagement party, I was still riding the high. I hadn't laughed that hard in ages, and the messages kept flooding in. Best party ever. Still dying over Nathan's Bubbles outfit. Heather's face when she saw the costumes. Priceless. Can you do another costume party for the wedding? But on Tuesday morning, the first crack formed. I got a call from my father. I didn't answer. I had already blocked him, but I forgot that he still had access through my office line. I work as an event coordinator at a boutique agency, and my work number isn't exactly private. The voicemail he left was unhinged. You think this is over? You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone. You ruined her dignity and now she's threatening legal action. You will apologize. Legal action? For what? Themed parties? I forwarded the voicemail to my personal email, saved a backup copy, then blocked the office number from his contact list. My boss is cool and already knows some of the family drama. When I explained, she nodded and said, "Do you want me to screen your calls for a while?" Bless her. That evening, I got an email from Heather. It was written in Comic Sans. Comic. Freaking. Sans. As if that wasn't enough of a red flag, the subject line read, legal breach and humiliation, read carefully. She claimed that because the party's theme had been changed without her knowledge, and because photos of her in her bridal-style dress had circulated on social media, she had been defamed and emotionally harmed. She said she was exploring legal options. It read like a letter written by a particularly bitter middle schooler pretending to be a lawyer. I wanted to laugh. But then I scrolled to the bottom and saw the kicker. She had attached a screenshot of an email, sent from a fake Gmail account, claiming it had proof that I had maliciously planned to sabotage her months ago, and that my intention to harm her reputation had been ongoing. The email had lines like, "I've hated Heather for years, and when the time comes, I'll destroy her." What? The email was supposedly from me. Except, I never sent that. And it wasn't even remotely my writing style. The language was off, the phrasing was dramatic and amateurish, not to mention it was addressed to someone named Tracy, which made zero sense. I didn't know any Tracy. That's when I knew. Heather was trying to frame me. But not just socially, legally. And that's when I remembered something Nathan told me a long time ago. Back in college, when Heather was messaging him nonstop, before he even knew she was my half-sister, she sent him long, creepy, emotional emails. And one of them had lines that mirrored the fake email she'd just attached. I showed it to him, and his jaw dropped. She used the same phrasing. She plagiarized her own crazy, I said. We started digging. Nathan had archived her emails from back then. He's the kind of guy who keeps receipts just in case. He pulled them up, and we compared them. Bingo. Exact match on multiple lines. Word for word. So I lawyered up. I'm lucky to have a family friend who's an attorney. She took one look at everything and said, she forged fake evidence, tried to intimidate you with false legal threats, and is trying to weaponize your own family ties against you. This isn't just petty. It's borderline criminal. I still didn't want to escalate things legally, yet. But I had my bases covered. Screenshots. Logs. Emails. Timeline. The next day, things got worse. I went to the grocery store after work, just to grab a few things. As I walked past the deli, I noticed a woman watching me. Hard. Sunglasses indoors. Purse clutched tightly. I froze. It was Heather's mom. She didn't say anything at first. Just kept walking behind me. When I turned to confront her, she hissed, "You've ruined everything." She was supposed to be the bride. I blinked. "Excuse me?" She leaned closer, whispered, "Nathan was hers. You stole him. But it's not too late." That sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just about embarrassment anymore. They weren't angry about a dress or a party theme. They were delusional. Obsessed. I left immediately, told Nathan everything, and we made a decision together. We were going no contact. Fully. Permanently. We scrubbed our guest list. Heather was out. Her mother was out. My father was out. And we added security to our wedding venue. The final straw came that Friday. Nathan got an anonymous message on Facebook, no profile picture, no name. Just a text. She still talks to me, you know. You're not her first choice. Attached was a blurry photo. At first glance, it looked like a random dorm room. But Nathan's face went pale. He whispered, "That's my freshman year apartment." And then I saw it. In the photo, taken from behind a cracked door, Nathan was sitting on his bed, with Heather. She was leaning into him, hand on his thigh, lips inches from his cheek. The timestamp: March 2019. I had started dating Nathan in February. That's when he told me something he had kept secret, not out of guilt, but because it seemed so irrelevant at the time. We hooked up. Once. Before I knew who she was. I sat there in silence. He said it happened at a party, early in the semester. She didn't tell him her last name. She introduced herself as Elle, and he didn't even connect the dots. She ghosted him the next day, and he assumed it was a one-night thing. 2 months later, he met me through mutual friends. I introduced myself as OP. He didn't put 2 and 2 together until much later, when Heather started texting him out of nowhere and confessed the truth. She had known who he was, all along. She just didn't know he was about to fall for me. And now it all made sense. The weird texts. The dress. The fake email. The threats. The stalking. Heather wasn't just trying to ruin my wedding. She was trying to erase me from the narrative. Like if she pushed hard enough, I'd vanish and she'd slide right into my life. It was horrifying. But it was also empowering. Because now I had clarity. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't provoked anything. I hadn't been dramatic. I had simply existed, and that was enough to trigger someone else's fantasy into unraveling. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't break up with Nathan. Instead, I documented everything. I made backup drives. I gave my lawyer the full timeline. And I started preparing for the next phase. Because Heather wasn't finished. And I wasn't backing down. The bridal shower was supposed to be simple. Classy. Low stress. Just a cozy group of friends, charcuterie boards, a pastel theme, some prosecco, and lots of cheesy bridal games. My best friend Alyssa was hosting it at her apartment, and everything was going smoothly. Until the photographer arrived. He was late, not unusual, but he looked off. Skinny, pale, wearing a mask that didn't fit right, oversized hoodie, hands shaking slightly. I assumed he was just flustered. He mumbled something about the studio sending him instead of our original booking. Alyssa shot me a look but shrugged. He spent the next 30 minutes snapping pictures quietly, never speaking to anyone. Then he asked if he could get a solo shot of me on the balcony. I hesitated. The vibe was weird. But we were on the 2nd floor, and Alyssa was in the kitchen just steps away. I agreed, against my better judgment. I stood on the balcony. He lifted the camera. Click. Click. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You'll look good in black." I blinked. What? He lowered the camera and smiled, and that's when I saw it. The eyes behind the mask. They were hers. "Heather!" I gasped. She ran. She jumped over the side of the balcony like some deranged action movie character, landed awkwardly on the bushes below, and bolted toward a car parked down the street. A friend screamed. Alyssa chased after her but didn't catch up. By the time we called the police, the car was gone. Heather had disguised herself as a photographer and infiltrated my bridal shower. She wasn't just watching anymore. She was escalating. The next morning, I found a manila envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name in messy, childish writing. Inside, dozens of printed photos. Of me and Nathan. In restaurants. On campus. Grocery shopping. Kissing outside his apartment. Dating back years. Some taken from behind bushes. Some through windows. One was taken inside my old apartment, a photo of me asleep in bed. There was only one person who ever had a key to that place, years ago, when I briefly stayed with my dad after a breakup. Heather. There was also a flash drive. I hesitated, but curiosity and fear won. I plugged it in using an old laptop not connected to Wi-Fi, just in case. The drive contained a folder labeled Project, My Wedding. Inside were Word docs. Dozens. Outlines. Guest lists. Vows. But they weren't mine. They were hers. Ceremony script, Heather and Nathan. Table layout, my side versus his. OP removed. Pregnancy announcement draft, use if he hesitates. Yes. That was real. She had a backup plan that included faking a pregnancy if Nathan ever started pulling away. She even had a folder called Blackmail, full of screenshots she'd clearly doctored, fake texts between me and her father, implying I was unstable, cheating, violent. Messages I never sent. It was a full-on delusion. She wasn't just obsessed with Nathan. She believed, truly believed, that I had stolen him from her. That I was the intruder in her life. The worst file. A diary entry, typed and saved as goodbye letter, just in case it said, if I die, it's Arp's fault. She's manipulative. She gaslights me. She knows what she did. Everyone will believe her, but she's the villain. Nathan was mine. He told me he loved me first. She's the imposter. And if I disappear, check the lake. I closed the laptop and shook. Whether this was a suicide note or a staged trap, it terrified me. She was spiraling. I called the police. They took it seriously this time. Especially once I handed them the flash drive. They asked if I wanted to press charges, and while part of me screamed yes, I hesitated. What if that made her worse? What if she really did something to herself, or us? We decided to file a restraining order. At least then, legally, we had something in place if she tried to approach again. Nathan filed one too. Our lawyer advised us to increase security and start warning our wedding vendors, florist, planner, caterer, about a potential impersonator or sabotage risk. Then came the next twist. Nathan received a package in the mail. It looked like a wedding invitation. Cream-colored envelope, calligraphy, floral stamps. No sender. He opened it, and turned white. It was an invitation. To Heather's wedding. Location, undisclosed. Date, the same day as ours. Groom, Nathan's name. Bride, Heather, using my last name. At the bottom, it read, private ceremony. Guest list pre-approved. No substitutions allowed. Inside was a photo of Heather in a wedding gown, the same one she wore to our engagement party. Only this time, it was edited to look like Nathan was standing beside her in a tux. It wasn't just creepy. It was delusional. That night, Nathan didn't sleep. Neither did I. Every sound felt suspicious. Every shadow outside the window looked like her. I emailed the detective on our case. He said they were reviewing the evidence and suggested we postpone the wedding. Postpone? After all this? No. That was exactly what she wanted. We made a new plan. We moved the date up by a week. Quietly. Privately. No big announcements. No Instagram posts. Just a quiet email to our guests. We changed venues too, to a private estate my boss generously offered for free. And we hired 2 off-duty cops for security. But that wasn't enough. Because 3 days before the new wedding date, Nathan got another message. This time, from his mom. Hey sweetie. Just got your real invite. Can't wait. I'm so glad you and Heather finally worked things out. Attached was a photo. It was a fake wedding website. Password protected. But the homepage had a message. N+H forever. After all this time, true love wins. His mom had been sent the link anonymously. So had 3 of his cousins. Heather was trying to recreate our wedding. With herself as the bride. I lost it. Screamed. Cried. Laughed. Everything at once. Who does this? Nathan held me and said, we're getting married. I don't care what she does. We're getting married. And I knew he meant it. But the night before the wedding, we got a knock on the door. Not the front door. The back door. Nathan grabbed a bat. I dialed 911. We opened it together. And there, sitting on the back step, was Heather. Barefoot. Crying. In a black dress. She looked up and whispered, "It was supposed to be me." The cops arrived within minutes. They arrested her on the spot. She didn't resist. Just kept crying. Muttering things like he chose wrong, and I waited. We found out later she had broken into her dad's house and stolen documents, photos, and my birth certificate. She had tried to claim we weren't sisters at all, that I was the imposter. Heather was committed to a psychiatric hold for evaluation. Nathan and I got married the next day. It was perfect. Peaceful. Safe. But the story wasn't over. Because after the ceremony, we found one final surprise. A gift left in the trunk of Nathan's car, wrapped in black paper, with a tag that read, "For the real bride." Inside was a baby Onacy, and a positive pregnancy test. The baby Onacy and the positive pregnancy test in Nathan's car hit me like a punch in the gut. I stared at them for what felt like hours, heart pounding, mind racing. Nathan hadn't said a word yet. I finally looked up. His face was pale, eyes wide. "I swear, I don't know where that came from," he said quietly. We sat down together, desperate to make sense of this nightmare. There was only one explanation: Heather had sent them. But why? To torment us? To gaslight me? To make me doubt Nathan? Or worse? Could it be real? Nathan and I had been careful, but nothing is foolproof. That night, I called my doctor and scheduled an urgent appointment to get tested. The next morning, the doctor confirmed I was not pregnant. Relief and dread swirled inside me. Then Nathan got a call from his sister. "Mom's freaking out," she said. "She says she found a letter Heather left behind at her house. Says it's for you too." We drove to Nathan's parents' place. On the kitchen table was a folded letter, scrawled in Heather's shaky handwriting. It read, "Nathan, I'm sorry it has to be like this. I wanted to be your wife, your everything. But I know that's not possible. So I'm giving you this, the truth. I'm pregnant. Not with your baby, but with someone else's. Someone you don't know. Someone from college. I wanted to hurt you both, but I never wanted to hurt the baby. Please forgive me someday. Heather." My stomach dropped. Pregnant. With someone else's child. The letter included a name, Mark. My heart sank further. Mark was Heather's ex-boyfriend, the one Nathan warned me about, the one Heather spiraled over for months. Nathan and I realized something terrifying. Heather's entire plan had been to destroy us by any means necessary. To replace me. To replace our life. That night, the police told us Heather had confessed to some of the break-ins, the stalking, even sending the fake pregnancy test. But she also claimed she was in love with Nathan, no matter what. And the pregnancy. A lie to manipulate us further. The psychiatric evaluation revealed she had borderline personality disorder and severe delusions, which explained her fixation and dangerous behavior. Nathan and I decided to focus on us, and our marriage. The community rallied around us. Friends, family, even strangers reached out with support. The wedding photos became a symbol of love triumphing over darkness. But Heather's story isn't over. We know she's still fighting her demons in treatment. Still trying to find peace in a shattered world. I don't know if she'll ever fully heal. But one thing I do know. Love isn't possession. It's freedom. And Nathan and I will build a future grounded in that truth.